Guess she's a goner now. Standing in front of the shed was Lester. With confusion, I approached him. Did he come to help? If so, were the other two gone? Holding on to these thoughts, I called out to Lester. "What are you doing?" "Rachel?" Upon hearing my voice, Lester turned around with a shocked expression. I tilted my head in confusion. "Why are you here?" "I was at the gym. Rick and Julia said they'd cover for me." "Julia? No way, right? What's gotten into you all of a sudden?" "No, this can't be." Lester screamed and dashed towards the shed, desperately trying to open its door. "Hey, what are you doing?" "Julia's inside." Just then, a dreadful thought crossed my mind. Did he mistake Julia for me and lock her in the shed? In this heat? Where's the key? I threw it in the ocean. Oh no. Just as I was beginning to despair, someone said, "She's not in there." I'm Rachel White. I'm a 53-year-old part-time worker and a wife. I have 2 kids, but they've grown up and have families of their own now. So it's just me and my husband, Lester, living together. To be honest, Lester has been somewhat domineering lately and we've not been getting along. He never wanted to be involved in raising the kids and always left everything to me. As a result, the kids never warmed up to Lester, and although they care about me, they don't visit our house. The reason they don't come around is probably because they're ashamed of having a mother like me. Lester always blamed me for everything, but I'm not the type to just sit there and be belittled either. So we often get into arguments lately. The only one who listens to my rants is Rick Taylor, a coworker at the supermarket. Rick is a distant relative of mine. We live nearby and have known each other since he was a kid. We happened to reunite at the supermarket and began sharing stories. Rick has an older girlfriend. They plan to marry once he graduates from college. Seeing Rick happy feels like seeing my own children who have drifted apart, and it lightens my mood a bit. As for Lester, he seems to be infatuated with a young lady from his workplace lately. She's really thoughtful and above all, so adorable. She always relies on me and asks me questions. She's definitely into me. You might want to not get too cocky. Maybe she's just asking you because you're her boss at work. Lester, with his sappy and pitiful face, gets a word of advice. Then his face turned cold in an instant. Compared to her, you're not cute at all. What are you on about? You always have something to say about me. And ever since you had our child, you've been putting on weight. Lester began to mumble complaints about my body. Indeed, when I first met Lester, I had the time and energy to take care of myself and maintain a good figure. But after our children were born, I was busy taking care of them alone, and didn't have that luxury. I always put myself second. I do understand that I've let myself go a bit, but I don't think it warrants ridicule. Especially after the kids moved out, I noticed that I had gained weight. True. After the kids left, I used the time I previously spent on childcare to have some tea. During that time, I'd also have some snacks, so I was well aware that I was putting on weight. Really, you're not attractive at all. I can't even see you as a woman anymore. That's a bit harsh. You're not one to talk about appearances. While Lester criticizes my appearance, his belly sticks out more than mine, and he's even starting to lose hair. Before he talks about me, he should work on his own stomach. Shut up, it's fine for men. What kind of logic is that? That's exactly why you're not cute. With that, Lester stormed out of the room. I sighed at Lester's behavior. Once again, his bad habits show. He's truly like a child sometimes. Good morning. Lester ignored my greeting and headed straight to work. When he's upset, he tends to ignore me for a while. He's so exhausting. Rachel, what's up? Did you have another fight with Lester? Rick, as always, approached me with a refreshing smile. I told him what Lester had said to me. Hearing my story, an idea seemed to spark in Rick's eyes. How about going to the gym? The gym? Yes, I've recently been hitting the gym with my girlfriend. If you use your spare time for the gym, you'll lose weight, and you can show Lester. I thought about Rick's proposal for a moment, and then nodded in agreement. So we decided to go to the gym on our next day off. From then on, I started going to the gym regularly. At first, I was unsure, but it turned out to be a great fit for me. I really enjoyed the sport, and the feeling after a good workout was addictive. Hey, Rachel. Oh, Rick, and this is the girlfriend I've always talked about. Pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot about you from Rick. I'm Julia Smith. I began to run into Rick at the gym from time to time. And that's how I was introduced to Julia, his girlfriend. Julia is a charming young lady with big eyes. Over time, after meeting a few times, I became quite close with her. Can I vent to you for a bit? Of course, honey. That's when Julia started talking about her boss at work. Apparently, she has a boss who's really pushy. He constantly approaches her more than necessary and always tries to invite her out for meals or drinks. That sounds tough. Oh, but actually, one of my relatives is on the board of the company. They said they'll handle it soon. Well, that's good to hear. But really, there are annoying folks everywhere. In my case, it's at home. Hey, what? I just got home, and there was Lester looking sour as always. I sighed at his attitude and responded, "Where are you going every single day?" "To the gym," he replied. "I told you before. I didn't hear that. You didn't listen. It's not that you didn't hear. You just chose to ignore me." I replied to Lester while preparing dinner. If he's just lazing around at home all day, it would be nice if he helped out a bit. "You're going there with the money I earn, and you're getting cocky just because you lost a little weight?" "I told you, didn't I? I pay for the gym with my part-time job, so it's not with the money you earn." "I didn't hear that." "I clearly told you even if you ignored me." "Maybe you need a hearing aid." I couldn't help but snap back. But Lester, having no comeback, silently left the room. For the record, I did tell him. Even if he ignores me, I always make sure to communicate, especially when money is involved. Well, he probably forgets right away anyway. This is so frustrating. The next week, I was getting ready to go to the gym again. Lester approached me. "Hey, clean up the storage shed." "What?" "We have a decent-sized storage shed on our property. It's true that it's packed with stuff, but everything inside is Lester's junk." Lester has a habit of buying tools for every new hobby he starts, then quickly loses interest and dumps them in the shed. "Why should I clean it up? It's your stuff. I'm off to the gym." "Shut up. You're my wife. Listen to me." Lester yelled at me, ready to storm off. At that point, I was at the end of my tether with him. "Rachel, is everything okay?" Rick's attention was caught by Lester's yelling, and he popped his head in. Behind him was Julia. I was supposed to go to the gym with the two of them today. They probably came to pick me up and heard the yelling. "Who the hell are you?" I was worried because Rachel wasn't coming out and we had plans to go to the gym. "A gym buddy? Julia? Mr. White?" It seems that Lester and Julia know each other. While Lester has a happy expression, Julia looks displeased and hides behind Rick. "Have some tea for now. If you stay there, you'll be in the way, so please stay back." Pushing Lester aside, I ushered the two into the room. I felt sorry for them, but I decided to decline their offer to go to the gym together this time. "So that's the situation? Hey, can I help you instead?" "Huh?" Then they offered to organize the storage room in my place. I felt bad about it, but honestly, are you a bit annoyed? "Yeah, kinda. So let's sort it out at the gym. And it might be better with some manpower, right? How about this? We'll take something we like from the storage, and you treat us to the next meal," they said with a mischievous grin. I nodded in agreement and headed to the gym, feeling grateful. Lester seems to be gone. I tried calling out to Lester as I searched the house, but he was nowhere to be found. He must have felt neglected and left in anger. If he's not here, I'm going. Anything inside is basically junk, so if you don't want it, toss it. After saying that to the two, I headed to the gym. 2 hours later, feeling guilty for coming home so late, I bought some ice cream and returned. "I'm back. Thanks for..." "Huh?" No sign of the two inside. I thought they might still be in the storage room and went to check, but they weren't there either. Instead, there was Lester. They're beyond help now. Standing in front of the storage, I approached Lester with a puzzled look. Did he come to help? If so, did the other two leave? With these questions in mind, I called out to Lester. "What are you doing?" "Rachel?" As I called out, Lester turned around in disbelief. I tilted my head, confused. "Why are you here?" "I went to the gym. Rick and Julia said they'd help." "Julia? You're kidding, right? What's gotten into you all of a sudden?" "No way. It can't be." Lester screamed and ran to the storage shed, and then he tried frantically to open the storage door. "Hey, what are you doing?" "Julia's inside. A terrible thought crossed my mind. Did he mistake Julia for me and lock her in the storage? Under this scorching sun, where is the key? I threw it into the ocean. No way. I was on the brink of despair at Lester's words. She is not in there. Someone informed us. It was Rick who was there. He was coldly glaring at Lester. Rick, where's Julia? I have Julia out. According to Rick, after moving some larger items outside, he apparently stepped out to buy a drink. While he was away, Julia, who was inside checking smaller items, got trapped. When Rick returned, he got a call on his cell, broke the storage shed window, and rescued Julia. I took Julia to the hospital. Just to be safe, she will be staying overnight. I came back to explain things to Rachel. How could this happen? The window of the storage shed is not easily seen from the door, so it must have been overlooked. But the fact that Rick could break the window and rescue Julia was because of his workout at the gym. I would not have been able to rescue her without that key that was thrown into the ocean. Both Julia and I tied up our hair today, and we were planning to go to the gym, so we wore similar kind of shirts. So in the dark, you mistakenly locked Julia in, thinking it was Rachel? Yes, that is correct. I meant to trap Rachel, not target Julia. It's not the point. Rick shouted at Lester, and Lester was frozen in shock. It is a good thing I was there this time. If it was only Rachel, it could have been very dangerous. And of course, I am not saying it was okay because it was Julia. I will never forgive you for this. Lester, being glared at by Rick, looked utterly diminished. Coldly looking down at him, Rick turned to me. Julia says she wants to see you. Can you come to the hospital? Yes, of course. I nodded and hurried to the hospital. Tonight, you better not. Maybe you should prepare some divorce papers. Rick cut off Lester's attempt to follow and shot him another icy glare. Right now, I am desperately holding back from laying my hands on you. Lester gasped. But more importantly, I need to get Rachel to Julia. But if you make this take any longer, I will not hold back. Overwhelmed by Rick's intense gaze, Lester sat down on the ground. Ignoring Lester, Rick urged me to move, and I also ignored Lester. Then, guided by Rick, I entered Julia's hospital room. Julia, Rachel, I am sorry for making you worry. Don't apologize. I'm so sorry to have made you go through all of this. Julia seemed better than I had imagined. However, upon seeing the IV in her arm, it's clear she wasn't just trapped for a few minutes. Julia's parents apparently live far away, and it seems to take some time for them to arrive. Rachel, there's something I need to talk to you about regarding your husband. Upon hearing the truth she shared, I felt a headache coming on. It turns out that the boss at work, who was being overly persistent with her, was Lester. I knew he shared the same last name, but I assumed it was just a coincidence since it isn't a rare one. However, when they visited, I found out that my husband and that boss were the same person. She said that when she was alone in the shed and debating whether to tell me about it, someone had pushed her from behind and locked her. I quickly switched on my camera and managed to get a shot through her gap. She showed me a video on her phone that captured Lester holding a key and running away. Moreover, sorry Rachel, if you were to unfortunately pass away in an accident, I could be with Julia. So you'll have to stay in that hot shed for a while. The video also showed Lester saying this. So he tried to lock me in the shed to make Julia his own? I swear Mr. White and I are definitely not involved in that way. Yes, I trust you. It's Lester, I can't believe. What was that man thinking? Just then, Julia, Lester? Why are you here? Lester barged in. Julia let out a small scream, and Rick shielded her with his body. What are you doing here? I came to apologize to Julia. You don't have the right to. Is it true that you've tried to force Julia into an affair with you? Stop joking around. Rick glared at Lester. Being a regular at the gym, Rick was quite buff. And being tall, his glare was pretty intimidating. You're cheating with Rachel, aren't you? Excuse me? I know, she works at the same supermarket as you, and you guys are close. Well, she's family. Upon hearing this, Lester looked stunned. Could it be he didn't realize? I didn't know that. You should have known about Rick. Remember? He used to visit and play with the kids when they were young. It seems like Lester didn't recall. Probably because he dumped all the childcare on me and barely played with the kids. Indeed, Rachel and I are close, but as family. We've known each other since we were kids. She's been there for me for advice. At the very least, I don't have ulterior motives like you. Stay away from her. Leave now. I don't want to see your face. I don't plan on forgiving you, so your apology isn't necessary. Please leave. Lester was coldly turned away and left, looking defeated. What on earth did I see in him that made me marry him? I regretted marrying him and just kept on apologizing to Julia. After that, Lester and I decided to get a divorce. I don't want a divorce. I love you too. At first, Lester refused to sign the divorce papers, saying this: I considered getting a lawyer involved, but he signed the papers trembling when he was stared down by Rick. It was a good call having Rick there with me. After that, I packed up my things and went to my parents' house. I'll be away for a bit, but thanks for everything. Take care of your health. Thank you too, truly. May I come over to visit? Oh, absolutely. We made sure to meet up soon again. I'd been upfront with my folks back home about everything that happened, so they understood. If anything, they even said you really did your best. I later heard from Rick, with whom I'd exchanged contact details, about what happened after. Apparently, after I completely distanced myself, they took the evidence to the police. This led to Lester getting arrested. Moreover, when the police arrived, he resisted vehemently and added more charges to his list. He won't be out for a while, and even if he does, he won't ever get near Julia again, Rick said with a chuckle. Understandably, he must have been quite upset. Seeing his face reminded me that Rick had always been gentle and kind, but once he got mad, there was no stopping him. The kids were always able to calm down that side of Rick, which is why he often came over to our place. Now, with no kids to soothe him, and Julia having been terrorized by Lester, if he ever shows his face again, it might be the end of him. I mused over this while having tea with my mom. I stayed with my family for a while after that, and decided to rent a place closer to work. During that time, I received letters from Lester, but I threw them away without reading them. They were probably pleas for help. Why would I help someone who tried to take my life? I murmured, cutting off all possible contact with Lester. If things had gone a little differently, I might have been in a situation where I couldn't cry for help, dying in the sweltering heat. This story serves as a reminder not to expect help from anyone in the future. Now that I don't have that troublesome roommate, maybe I should get a pet. When I discussed this with Julia, dogs are the best. I absolutely adore them. Apparently, she loves dogs, but can't have one because of her living situation. Soon, with her encouragement, I'll be adopting an easy-to-care-for dog. Both Rick and Julia will be utterly smitten, and before I know it, they'll be the ones eagerly taking it for walks. Julia was eventually discharged from the hospital. Fortunately, thanks to her timely rescue, she had no lingering issues. There shouldn't be any issues for the marriage either. Later on, my in-laws paid me a visit. They sincerely apologized, saying, "We're truly sorry for our son's actions." For the record, my in-laws are generally good people, calm and kind. I often wondered how they had a son like Lester. It seems that Lester's grandmother had always spoiled him. Nevertheless, they acknowledged their part and decided not to welcome Lester after his release. "That man's a disgrace to our family," they said, relocating far away to ensure he couldn't return. The kids have been informed of all the details. The kids, who already disliked Lester, decided to cut all ties with him. Right in front of me, they all blocked his contact. It was the moment it became clear that Lester would be on his own from now on. After that, when I discussed the situation with my part-time job manager, I found out that I would soon be made a full-time employee. The kids even said they'd send me some money if needed, so it looks like I'll be able to live peacefully from now on. Later on, I heard through the grapevine that Lester got out of jail. However, with no one to turn to, he had racked up debt over the Julia incident. He was obviously fired from his job too. As for what happened to Lester afterward, no one seems to know. Well, it's none of my business now. Sometime after that incident, I was attending Rick and Julia's wedding. The bond between them had only strengthened after what happened. They managed to have a lovely ceremony, and it turns out Julia is expecting. Seeing the two of them looking so happy, rubbing her belly, I had to hold back tears. Congratulations to you both. Wishing you all the happiness in the world. Thank you so much. When the baby arrives, I'd love for you to hold them. It was clear they were genuinely happy. Since then, I've kept up with my gym routine. Now the kids are even showing interest. And whenever our schedules align, we hit the gym together. It feels like we've never been closer. Thanks to that incident, troublesome people are out of our lives, and it feels like we've regained our family bond. From here on out, it seems we'll all be living happier days together.